Lead Story with George Davis, weekdays at 6:30 p.m. on CVM TV.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out, don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
The Member of Parliament for Southwest St. Catherine, Everett Warmington, has again taken aim at sections of the press, saying they are out on a mission to end Andrew Holness's tenure as Prime Minister and to get the JLP out of office, even as the Prime Minister himself asked Labourites to cool it where confrontations with the press are concerned, to say that, look, enjoy the work of the press and support the work of the press. The press is not our enemy. Labourites, though, many of them say, why is the press screaming bloody murder? They love to give it criticism, but they don't love to take it. We discuss the issue of the government versus the press and press freedom today on Lead Story. Welcome to Lead Story here on CVM TV on this day, October 15. History says 44 years ago, Member of Parliament for East Rural St. Andrew, Roy McGann, the PNP, he was Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of National Security. He was shot and killed alongside a policeman, Corporal White, in Gordon Town Square in St. Andrew. Up to this day, it's not quite clear who pulled the trigger or how Roy McGann came to be on the end of a bullet, but he died himself and the policeman in that event, and it is often used as the signal of the apogee of political violence in Jamaica, where a serving MP, one campaigning for office, was cut down on the campaign trail. It's against this background that we're having this conversation today about press freedom, what with the comments made by Everett Warmington about sections of the press, and those two videos injurious to several people in the media fraternity, especially those who work for the RJ Gleaner Communication Group, branded as political hacks in a hatchet job of a video which does no good service to anyone concerned, not the political parties involved, not the journalists at all. It is bad form when you have a healthy democracy with that kind of naked attack on the people who work and serve and represent the Fourth Estate. Today, though, we set the context as usual with a package looking at what has been said about the press and what the press has had to say for itself in this clash between those who write and comment and those who are the subject of what is written and what the commentators say.
The political mudsliding has begun. The news for the upcoming year can be expected to be characterized with tense and potent political rhetoric. Politicians and surrogates using platforms, social media, and the traditional media to launch attacks against their opponents. But what happens when the media becomes the news? Just last evening, controversial politician Everett Warmington was found name-dropping a local media conglomerate for what he describes as a campaign to destroy Prime Minister Andrew Holness.
Last week, when they said government condemns the attack on media by political leadership, today I'm speaking as a member of the Jamaican Party. So the party can't condemn me when I talk. And I'm saying again that the agenda of the Gleaner Company and RGR is to get rid of Andrew Holness and Jamaica Party. So last week, when they claim government condemned, let me talk to their labor rights. And if Labour Party comes out tomorrow to condemn what I said it again the other day, because nobody going to shut me up. My position is, I must do all I can to ensure that we get the third term.
Well, these attacks are not party-colored, as just last year, PNP General Secretary called another media house by name and accused them of being biased towards the JLP. Jamaica currently ranks 24 out of 180 nations in the 2024 release of the World Press Freedom Index with a score of 77.3. Jamaica was ranked 32nd in last year's index. But many fear these recent attacks can undermine the gains made. But is the press beyond being pressed? Well, we discuss the current political climate and the involvement of the press as the political temperature is turned up. Courtney Lewis for Lead Story.
Thank you, Courtney and Jonathan, for producing that. Before we go to the break and I introduce my guests, I want to hear from the Prime Minister at that same event in Southeast, Era 2, JLP Era Council 2 meeting in Southeast St. Catherine, Robert Miller's constituency. The Prime Minister was the Speaker of, the Speaker of Honour at the event. He was the main speaker. And he had something to say about this issue, about the press and the attacks against the press in those two videos which have been making the rounds on social media.
That says it. What it says is that in a free press, if somebody says something that you don't like, develop the capacity to say what you like and what you want to hear and get it popularized and fed to the people. That is where it is at. In the landscape of a free press, and in particular in the age of social media, some of us may feel uncomfortable when the dominant media houses portray our position in ways that we don't like. But let me be clear with you that we have seen the media landscape in Jamaica change dramatically and radically. And what the Jamaica Labour Party must do as we enter into the battle for your minds is ensure that we put the information out there in the traditional media, but in all forms of media, to ensure that the people of Jamaica have the balance.
A more pacifist sound from the Prime Minister, where the relations with the media are concerned, not seeking to fire up the masses to respond to unfavorable press, unlike the message from Everard Warmington, who's unrepentant in his views that the media, sections of it at least, are out to get the party leader and to get the JLP out of office. Break time here on Lead Story. When we come back, we'll hear from our guests.
Have a gig for you and the crew. Mobile, next week Saturday. Where you say?
Just have to grab you down the lane.
No, I hear nothing about that brother there, no.
And tell me say I have a big show line up for it.
Look up on the stage, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's the innocent.
But we are idiots to allow Grabs to be treating us like idiots. Under no circumstances could that be my pay.
We's a group. We have to stick together.
A group of idiots. We don't even have fear to go home.
My girl, you see the youth them when they sit down here, sir?
Greetings, guys. You don't know this is Mr. K representing Full 100 for Cooking with Love with Chef Simpson.
Alright, guys, welcome to a brand new episode of Cooking with Love. And this week's episode changed up a little bit. Now we're in the soca world. And we have the big man himself right here in New York, the man is on tour. Mr. Killer himself is in the building.
You can go there. I ain't give the food to eat and I give the food to taste. You don't know, Mr. Can represent it for the big bad cooking show, Cooking with Love.
You give me fever.
the lead story here on Monday on CVM TV. Kimiko Scott, journalism coordinator at Caramac, Sanjay Roden, political commentator, and Hilton Dennis, former president of the Press Association of Jamaica, are my guests this evening. Good evening, lady and gentlemen.
Good evening, George. Good evening to your viewers.
Am I hearing Kimiko? They are here. I hear Hilton. Kimiko, are you there?
Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for turning up. And the gentlemen are two good gentlemen. They won't mind if the lady gets first crack at it. Kimiko, what we're seeing here, many people are saying, look, why is it that the media gives it with both barrels to the political operatives and their leaders, but when the fire is returned or is trained on them, they are screaming to the referee, whomever the referee is? Is it as simple as that, this latest issue concerning the media and the politicians from the JLP?
I think you're stoking the fire there. You know it's not as simple as that. The media is, in fact, fulfilling its role to seek information from both sides and all sides of an issue. So that's the media's role, to get information from any and all sides of a particular issue and present it to the public in an unbiased way so that the public can make a decision about the information that they receive. Can the media take criticism? Yes, individuals within the media may be able to take criticism, but when we have political leaders on a platform criticizing the media, we are putting their role in jeopardy. We are allowing the public to question their responsible behavior and putting media workers at risk. So it's really not that simple as saying, oh, we could give it out and we can't take it back. It's really not that simple.
Yeah. Hilton, your perspective on the same premise I put to Kimiko. She says, of course, it's not that simple. It's far more nuanced and complicated than that. Are you of the same mind?
No, I'm a little different. We have to look at changing landscapes, right? What the media is handling now is tame by comparison to what the media has had to handle in Jamaica historically. And to have a good sense of the conversation of what's going on, we have to have a bit of historical perspective.
And that historical perspective?
Okay, so remember when, we're coming from a stage where there was not the plurality in media that we have now, right? Competition is very important for media to function democratically. And when you had one dominant radio station, one government-owned, the sole television station was government-owned, and the contentions that it dealt with would relate to which party is in power. You had one dominant newspaper. They came under a lot more violent pressure, not just the rhetoric, that is, it would ratchet up the violence and it would come from supporters. Some of it actually almost came from the leaders of the political party, people aspiring to be prime minister who became prime minister, staging strikes and laying down in the street outside of the television station, going down with a throng to the Gleaner newspaper and shaking fists and threatening next time. Top journalists being shot. You had a Maurice Cargill, who an award is named for the PAJ opinion journalist, who was shot at his home in Stony Hill. You had a John Hearn, who was beaten up within an inch of his life. These are icons of the profession. We are nowhere near there, and nothing that I have heard will incite that kind of violence. The media is a power base of the society. It's not a competing contender with the political parties, but it is a power base in its own self. And because the political leaders are aware of the influence that the media has, then you will get the kind of reaction that you get. I don't see why Everett Warmington has been singled out the way that he has been for the approach that he takes to the media. It's par for the course. Perspective is a prism. And I think he should have free expression in the same way that the media wants to be free,
yes,
to express what it wants. And I think the media should just continue doing what it is doing.
Yes.
and provoke him some more.
Yes.
And give it, as good as we get.
Yes, hold it right there for me, Hilton. I'll take Sandre's perspective after this break. This is Lead Story CVM TV, talking about press and its clash with the political class, especially those leading the JLP.
The time by Grace. Taste that moves you is
6:45.
Fan Central Pitside, brought to you by Edgechem, AIM Financial Corporation, Texaco, and Connex.
Hi everyone, my name is Kurt Dunn.
Greetings from Kali's Kelly Yoga.
Hey, it's Robin Morrison, and I am your National Physical Activity Specialist. And it's time to make a move.
Jamaica, let's get moving again. Season 2 of the Ministry of Health and Wellness Jamaica Move series is here. Join us Wednesdays at 5 a.m. and Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on CVM TV. Let's get moving.
Make a move now. No more fear of missing out. CVM TV News is on YouTube. Get up-to-date news, sports, and business content at CVM TV News anytime, anywhere. Subscribe now to CVM TV News to see it happen.
Kamika Scott, Journalism Coordinator at Caramac. Hilton Dennis, former President of the Press Association of Jamaica, with me. We've heard from them already, and now to hear for the first time from Sandre Roden, political commentator. Sandre, Hilton sets the context of, saying, what has happened to journalists in the past? He mentioned Maurice Cargill, one of the great minds of journalism in this country. He mentioned one of my favorite novelists, John Hearn, and what happened to him in his time as a media practitioner, as a reporter, beaten at a PNP conference it was. To say that what Everett Warmington is saying is tame by comparison, and the media should not take itself so seriously and view criticism of the kind that has been leveled in the videos that we've been speaking about recently, and even the words from Everett Warmington's mouth. Don't take that too seriously. It's nothing serious, is what he's saying. Your perspective on that?
Well, I think his perspective is indeed unique. When we hear the perspectives in the society, you have to think about, the historical context which he would have set and say, yes, it actually is tame. I can't speak to the video because I don't think I've seen all that content, but I know I've heard what Mr. Warmington, who is a member of parliament, would have said. And then we have to accept and admit that the media can take criticism. That's where we firstly have to stop and just say, yes, you can criticize the media. Why? When I think back a couple months ago, or say a year or two ago, we talk about this idea of polarization of the media. When you click on clickbaits nowadays, you go on a story, not on a particular media house, but you go on a story and you see, the worst thing in the world just happened. And when you click on it, you saw that there was flooding, some houses actually flood out, and they're fixing it. Mm-hmm. But they don't talk about the solution, for example. And this is not unique to Jamaica. Yes. And what we see now, as in the opening we saw where they spoke to Dayton Campbell sometime last year, I think it was, who singled out
the incubator comment.
Yes, singled out the incubator comment, singled out another media house. And that says to you that what we might see in Jamaica, especially leading into the election season, is what we're seeing in the United States of America, where there's polarization of the media. It started already. You know, the People's National Party can't be off the hook because they've been doing it. It's just now that we've seen where the governing Jamaica Labour Party has come into the ring swinging, particularly with MP Everall Warmington. And when you look at it, yes, it's a free country, it's a free state. You can say what you want, do what you want. But what we might have, and what I predict that we will have leading into the elections, is that polarization. I remember quickly, George, when Dayton Campbell was on Nationwide FM, and I remember staunchly when Cliff Hughes said to him, why did you not place any ads with us? And then you remember the incubator coming. So when you see that, you realize the polarization that will happen.
Kimiko, may I ask you if you believe that our politicians and political operatives are being misled by the fact that what happens in the newscasts is different from what happens on a talk show. And so the opinions expressed on a talk show, which is different from the facts that will be reported in a newscast. And so they're getting themselves hot under the collar, not by virtue of the news from a particular media house, but from the commentary from commentators. And opinion making and news writing are two different things. And maybe our politicians are angry, Kimiko, the suggestion is, because they're not spotting the difference and the nuance.
And that's a difference that we have to train our students in all the time. So we have journalism students at Carimac who have to be taught that there's a big difference between commentary and including your opinion or your thoughts or your personal feelings about a particular issue in your writing in news. And I live in the Caribbean, I haven't been in Jamaica that long, but I understand that the opinions do turn up in the news. Whether that's because you have commentators or editorials or information being shared or somebody includes a comment, but when and the news house, there's a separation that needs to happen, and maybe that's where there's a gap.
Yeah. Hilton, if I may come back to you again, the issue is that people say that journalists need to grow up, they need to have a thick skin, they need to be able to take the criticism on the chin in the way that people associated with their stations, and even they themselves, when they write and when they comment, they dole out the criticism and they make comments about the politicians that can be damaging. Is that a sign, you would say, of a healthy democracy? The more of this that exists, where the politicians go hard, the media goes hard, and at the end of it, the voter settles it at the ballot box?
Yeah, I don't want to speak in that narrow frame, George, and I know you don't have a lot of time. Let me make a quick correction. I was never president of the Press Association. I was its vice president.
Vice president, there you go.
I became the chief executive officer. And, I want, journalism is a profession, just like medicine and law and even politics, right? We have code of ethics and all of those things. And the tools that are at the disposal of journalists, aside from the training at Carimac, the tools at our disposal are not used. Journalists who have transitioned into senior management of media and ownership of media, right, are the ones who make ordinary reporters, their subordinates, vulnerable, because they suppress the use of these tools. I left the legacy of a press institute. When I was CEO of the Press Association, I formed that. It has never really been used, and you find editors are not editors the way they used to be. There's a high rate of attrition of young reporters because they are being abused, and there is a video that was circulated that started all of this, right? And the politicians are well aware of the distinction between opinion writers and talk show hosts and reporters. And in that video, which I am not dignifying, no talk show host was named, right? Straight reporters. So the politicians know exactly who they're going after and why they go after them. The press in Jamaica is very polarized. And, a lot of the endangerment of the reporters is from the senior people in the press who should know better.
Yes.
Because of how they have compromised the profession, they have compromised their professionalism, and they have compromised their subordinates.
Yes.
And then, we come and we use these smoke screens. Everett Warmington is good for the press.
Yes.
He's a good elixir for the press, and he must keep up. If it's pressure for them, then that's awful to note. But he must keep it up.
Yeah.
And we get away from the sensation.
Hear you on that, Sandre. So I put this point to you again. Hilton said, well, it was narrowing the context. We could battle over that, but the issue of the health of the democracy, when you have this natural yin and yang, this give and take between a press that is on the front foot in calling things as it sees it, but then the politicians giving it back to the press and feeling as if they criticize the press, then people won't see it as an attack on press freedom. Is that not, or are those things not in the potpourri of the democracy good for the soup?
Well, I would say it is indeed good for the soup, in the sense that, yes, both things are intertwined, but it is a democracy. We keep saying freedom and freeness and free speech. And if we really, really want to be free, I put to you that it's a political platform. And, Dayton Campbell said what he said. Everall Warmington said what he said. Might be different statements, might mean different things, but it still had to do with the press. Mm-hmm. And it's their opinions. Mm-hmm. So we continue along the line of opinion versus real journalistic intent. And then you question then, is it a case where Everall Warmington is saying in particular, which he said, that the journalism from the RGR Gleaner group is attacking the Prime Minister in a major way. And that's his belief, and that is what he put out on his political platform. And as you said, he was unrepentant. Yes. Now, the only thing I'll put to you finally, George, is that the problem we might have, or it might not be a problem, maybe it's a solution, is that we have something called new media now. When a lot of people are being pushed away from the Gleaners and the RGRs and the CVMs and the Nationwides, etc., they're now being pushed into new media. And as you well know, YouTube has its own viewing of a lot of people that might get misinformation, disinformation, information that might not be proven information. And that is where we see it going as it relates to press freedom, and I say new media.
I hear you on that. I'd like to say, as a man who's been here for a minute now, that what is happening, I'm not afraid of the future, neither am I afraid of the present. I know that as a journalist, Hilton Dennis spoke of it, I have tools at my disposal. I can take the criticism and I will never dish it out. What I do is critique. I am not in the criticism business as a journalist. That's not my job. I'm in the critique business. If there's praise to give, praise should be given. If there are questions to ask, questions will be asked. And I will continue doing that until my dying day. Now, I may butt heads with those in the political arena by virtue of that approach, but when they scream bloody murder and ask the referee to intervene, I will continue doing what I'm doing, because I know that I'm not carrying a political flag, I'm not waving a political standard, I am calling it as I see it. And in this clash of people calling it as they see it, you will have conflicts. I think this is what makes the democracy more healthy. I say this last thing. The press needs to look at itself. It needs to unite. You can't laugh and snicker on the sidelines when one